This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Everybody, Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk right here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. God knows where else. You'll be seeing this plausibly live, I guess, on Roku at noon today. So welcome all the Roku viewers as well. Sorry you don't get a chance to comment on the show, but if you join us on Facebook, you'll get a chance to do that and send your comments replied to in real time. So get those Roku devices. Guys, let's get subscribed to a Northeast Streaming Sports on Roku. It's an interesting experience. I'll watch myself every now and again. I know that sounds a little bit probably narcissistic, but it is what it is. So welcome, guys, and it's great to be back in the studio. As I've been traveling the last couple of Sundays, we tried to do some stuff from the ship. Hopefully it came off well. When I could do it, I did something live I went live on Roku last week because we did the show at noon Eastern Standard Time from the United VIP Lounge. Good morning, Rick Sherlock. But it's good to be back in the studio, have all my accoutrements with me. I can pull up some information if I need it. When I'm doing it remotely, it's, kind of a crapshoot because I've got what I've got in my brain and what I might have jotted down, and that's about it because I can't just switch off or you'll lose me altogether. So anyway, welcome to all of you. And again, thank you to the groups that allow me to share this later. I've been doing a lot of sharing from the Northeast Streaming Sports site as we're trying to really promote that. And we've got some really big advertising blitz coming up. So if you know people that may be interested in getting in front of 50,000 viewers weekly, and even more, maybe even more engagements, we'll get them with our new advertising executive and talk about that. So anyway, listen, we got a big show today. I got more than we can cover in 2 hours. I guarantee you. We're going to have Jim Beringer on in a second to get caught up on the NHL. We haven't had a chance to have Jim in a few weeks, and we'll get him in today to update us on his power rankings and the trade deadline, who's hot, who's not, maybe a little bit about how the situation in the Ukraine is affecting some of the players, as obviously there's a lot of players from that region, from the Ukraine in general and that region overall in the NHL. We're going to talk some Major League Baseball. And I'm going to talk a little bit today. We'll talk a little bit about the lockout, but I'm tired of talking about the lockout. We're going to talk more about what to expect when it ends, because there's a lot of dominoes that are going to fall pretty quickly. So we'll talk about some of that. We'll jump into the NFL, some news there. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals have seemingly made up. We'll jump into that topic. We'll talk a little bit about some Chiefs coaching moves. Maybe some of the TV, the drama with the TV contracts, not so much the contracts, but the personalities that'll be moving around. College basketball, the top 6 teams in the country lost yesterday. 7 of the top 10. We'll talk about what that impact that might have. We'll talk a lot more about that on Wednesday on the College Sports Huddle, obviously, but we'll jump into some of that today. And if there's time, we'll obviously, I say this every week, we'll jump into the NBA a little bit, but time is not allowed for the NBA, and with the Knicks in such disarray, I haven't had a lot of time to dive into it. So, they're just a mess. And now, as we wait for Jim to come in here to talk hockey, the Knicks are just a mess. Quentin Grimes goes down for the season. I didn't see the prognosis, but I gotta believe separated patella does not allow you to come back very soon. Good morning to Billy Pulver this morning. Hope you're feeling better, Bill. There's his hello to Mr. Sherlock. Jim, Billy, I don't know if you've been out in a while, but I do want to do a mock draft at some point with my viewers, and we're going to start lining that up in the next few weeks or through the month of March. And if you want to participate, we can certainly have you as the jet picker that day if you'd like. But we'll talk more about that as we go forward. What else? A couple of housekeeping notes, I guess. I mentioned it on our Wednesday show, and don't forget our college. We're going to talk a little bit. As I said, Rick's got a comment here. St. Mary's is very good. We're going to jump into college basketball at some point. I don't want to get too deep into it right now. But yes, the Zags got beat by a good St. Mary's team. I think 3 teams are coming out of that WCC, actually. I think San Francisco will have a shot as well. And Arizona and Auburn both lost. So did So did Purdue. So did Arizona, which you just said. I mean, look at it. Kentucky lost. Top 6 teams in the country lost last night or yesterday. I don't think the number 1 seeds are going to change that much, though. I think Gonzaga is still safe after this. And we'll jump into it a little bit as we wait for Jim, who should be here momentarily. I think 3 of the top seeds will stay. Purdue will probably drop out. It's going to be morning to see who pops in. Stephen Gold is here. Good morning, Stephen. Good to have you with us this morning as we get ready to dive into the show. As I said, we got 2 packed hours. It's going to be interesting once we do. As I said, we're going to be making a full blitz towards some advertising, and it's going to be interesting how we fit that in. I'm going to have to really start getting an editor to help me whittle down the material for Sundays, I guess. But lots to talk about. I mean, it's been a few weeks. I don't think we've had Jim Beringer in since, at least 3 weeks, right? I was away for 2, and I don't think I had him on the week before I went away. I should have done that. Just so we didn't fall so far behind. But we'll dive into the hockey. There's lots to talk about in hockey, and I'm going to jump into that real quick, just to kind of give us a little precursor before Jim gets here, and we'll talk about his top 10. That's going to be our number 1 thing. And just if you haven't seen them, I do post his top 10 to the TGI Sports Talk page every week. I do post a lot of his articles as well. As we said Wednesday night, anyone get knocked out. Or you know what? You're right, Rick. When we dive into this further, we'll talk more about it. And Wednesday night, we're going to obviously go headlong into the NCAA. An acronym I do not know right now. Stephen, help me out, buddy. Anyway, and while I wait for that, I'll kind of give you Jim's power rankings, and we're going to jump into them probably first thing. He's got a new number 1 this week because Florida, who's been playing very well, has jumped up to number 1. Colorado's dropped a spot. He's pretty steady in his rankings. The big news is the Calgary Flames moving up from 8 to 3. And Pittsburgh, I believe, dropping from 3 to 9, I want to say. So those were the big movers in his pool last week. As far as around the league in hockey, let's go Rangers. Should have known that. Thank you, Stephen. Rangers are playing very well. Since we're talking about it, where's he got him ranked this week? He's got him ranked number 5. And as he says, I butcher all these names. So, as Igor goes, so go the Rangers, so when he plays well, they win. And if he doesn't win the Vezina trophy, it's probably going to be shocking. Let's look a little bit at since we're talking about the Rangers, we'll jump into the Metropolitan Division. The Rangers, haven't been able to get into first place, but they're not far away. They're only 5 points out of the lead. And unlike last year at this time, there are plenty of games for them to catch up and make up the ground here. The Carolina Hurricanes continue to lead the Metropolitan, followed by Pittsburgh, who's a little bit down, 5-4-1 their last 10 games, while the Rangers have been 6-3. Carolina's very steady at 6-2-2. The Capitals go 500. Columbus trying to make a bit of a run to go 7-3. And the Islanders that's over. I've talked to the last time we had Jim on. The Islanders were making a bit of a run, and if as soon as we see Carlos, we'll hear fire Barry Trotz. But that, and the Flyers are just a mess, and so are obviously the New Jersey Devils, who is Jim's favorite team as well. So hopefully Jim will be in here in a second. Igor, right? Yeah, I'm an Igor guy. I don't know why. I cannot say Igor when I see that. It's just a natural reaction. And again, it might be Rick and Kenny Gifford, if Kenny's here, can probably speak to it, that, that Perth Education, I kind of read, there's something shocking. There's an Amazon package being delivered to my house. Okay, so we're already losing our battle with stream of consciousness and ADD issues. So, so you guys bring your hockey stuff. Get them ready, because Jim hopefully will be in here in a second. Just check my text and make sure I haven't missed him. Anything from him? No. Usually we comes in by 10 or 10:15, so we'll give him a few more minutes. Elsewhere, anyway, in the Eastern Conference, as we said, Florida's been playing very well, although they have lost their last 3 games. I shouldn't say that. They're 6-4. So since Jim had moved them up, his rankings were from the 23rd. They obviously lose 3. So his rankings will probably change again. Tampa Bay's red hot. They've won 4 in a row, 7 of their last 10, and with 1 tie. They're in second place there. Toronto continues to play good hockey with 72 points. Boston, this Eastern Conference, I think, is loaded myself. I know Jim likes the West and some of the things going on out West. But to me, that Metropolitan and the Atlantic divisions both are going to be wide open come NHL playoff time. And we've got the trade deadline coming up soon, too. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens and what transpires over the next few weeks. So it'll be very interesting. What else do we want to chat about? I don't want to dive into this too much. What do we got news-wise? Obviously, as I talked about, and I do want to get into with Jim, a lot of the players are certainly affected by what's going on over in Europe and the Ukraine and the invasion from Putin and Russia, whether they're from the Ukraine or whether they support the Ukraine. It's had an impact around the league. So it is something to take a look at and how it will affect some players' mindsets going forward. And with no further ado, before I bring Jim in, we got a question. That's a very good question, and we'll certainly get into that, Rick. I can promise you. Without further ado, let's bring in Jim Behringer from the Last Word on Hockey. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, good morning, Keith. How we doing?
Excellent. It's great to catch up with you. I know it's been a few weeks, and as I was away the last couple of Sundays and trying to do some things remotely, but I thank you for filling in for me with Dan Harris there. You did a commendable job as always.
Hey, thanks. Thanks always. Looks like you had a good time.
I tried not to. I tried very hard not to have a good time, and it never works out. So, so thank you. I did have a good time. It was very, very restful, and it came back to a bunch of snow yesterday. So,
yeah, I mean, I'd rather deal with the 60 degrees than or the 80 degrees than the snow.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it was good because I came back. When I left, we had, I swear to God, 8 inches of ice, solid ice that I'd gotten mostly off my driveway, but it was everywhere else. When I came home, it was all gone. There wasn't a speck of ice left. I was shocked. So it must have been some nice warm weather here while I was away. So glad I could ship some of that home. We haven't had a chance to catch up on the NHL with you, so we got a lot to chat about. As we were waiting on you, I kind of jumped into your top 10 a little bit. So why don't we start there? The big, you had a new number 1, obviously, which I'm going to guess may change again this week, since you moved Florida up. I don't think they've won a game.
So,
But a new number one, just switching 1 and 2, and I think they're interchangeable anyway. But the big news that I noticed in your top 10 this week when I reviewed it was Calgary moving up to 3 from 8 and Pittsburgh dropping 6 notches. So what's your overall take here? And the Rangers, by the way, holding steady at number 5.
I mean, look, the Florida Panthers at the time of doing these power rankings were probably the best team. Well, not, I mean, like you said, they could be interchangeable with the Colorado Avalanche is 1 and 2. But I mean, look, Florida's playing really well under Andrew Brunette. They have probably one of the more underrated players, if not 2 of the more underrated players in the league, in Sasha Barkov and Jonathan Huberdeau. Huberdeau is probably going to be up for the Hart Trophy this year, the way he's playing. That's right. The ringmaster is here. He's back and better than ever. But, for me with Colorado, though, I think they'll probably jump back to the top spot this week. They just have so much depth. I mean, you could see it doesn't matter if Nathan McKinnon's in the lineup or not. That team could still win games. Nazem Kadri just fills in. He's going to get a nice payday this offseason. I don't know if Colorado can keep him. I think they wish they could, but they have other guys that they need to sign, and I think Kadri's going to find himself, a free agent and signing someplace else. For me, the reason Calgary's just playing great under Darryl Sutter. They've been unbelievable since their little COVID outbreak. I believe 15-6, 15-7 now, probably even better than that. They had won 10 in a row, but they lost to Vancouver the other night. But I believe they bounced back. But let me just double check that. I believe they bounced back last night. They were winning against Minnesota before I shut they ended up winning 7-3. Yeah, they ended up 7-3. So they're dominating out there. The reason the Penguins dropped so much is they hadn't been winning games. That yesterday against the Rangers was their first win in 3 games. They had a 3-game losing streak. They hadn't really won too much going in. And it was actually, if you watch some of the game yesterday, it felt like a playoff game. It really wasn't high scoring. 1-0 was the final. Both goalies played really well. I think, we all know Igor Shesterkin will probably win the Vezina this year. At least he would get my vote because of, what he's done this year for the Rangers. If Rangers fans remember, this reminds you of what Henrik Lundqvist has done so many times about just keeping you in games that you're probably not supposed to be in. And Shesterkin is just the key to this success for this team. He's playing really well right now. Like I said, if he doesn't win the Vezina, I think that there's a problem with the voting. I think there's always a problem with the voting, but him and Vasilevsky going toe to toe. And I think that's a team that's probably going to move up this week where they are. I mean, the Tampa Bay Lightning are just 1 point behind the Florida Panthers now for the top spot in the Atlantic after beating Nashville on Saturday night in the Stadium Series. They're just clicking on all cylinders right now, and they're poised. I'm going to be honest. I think they're poised to three-peat this year. I like the way this team is built. Coach Cooper is just doing an unbelievable job with the Lightning.
Yeah, I was going to – one thing I had a question that I had with the top I guess you go 17 deep if I'm not mistaken, right? Something like that. Or maybe I'm just not looking at the whole thing. I don't know.
I go all 32 teams, but after like 17, they're all interchangeable, so it really doesn't matter.
Gotcha. So one thing I noticed, we were talking about Calgary and how hot they are, and I noticed, the Kings are playing just as well, it seems, right now, and they're right on the heels of Calgary. Why do you have them ranked so much lower at 15 than where you have?
Well, they're going to probably make a jump this week after their performances. Mm-hmm. It's just a team that, for me with LA, I wasn't too sure what they were going to do second half of the season. Could they hold on to this, great play that they had? But they're doing it. Tom McClellan's got this team playing really well. Adrian Kempe is really good. Drew Doughty's having a throwback season. Jonathan Quick, Cal Peterson, they're playing awesome in between the pipes. You know what? The Kings are for real. I think the reason holding back was the question marks. Could they sustain this? Because they took advantage of teams like Edmonton and Calgary when they were slumping. And, Anaheim's a team that's really fallen off right now. And I think the Kings are right there. They're challenging Vegas in that division. They're on the heels of Calgary. Who would have thought that it'd be a 3-team race for the top spot in the Pacific? I think everybody thought the Pacific was going to be the weakest division in the NHL this year, and it's really competitive in terms of teams. I don't think anybody thought Calgary was going to do what they were doing, but Darryl Sutter's got them playing really well. But the LA Kings are just a surprise team this year, and you know what? They're looking to make moves at the deadline and looking to upgrade their defense. And Jacob Chickern continues to be a player that continues to be connected to the Kings because they have the pieces to add a player like that. And with a reasonable salary cap hit of $4.6 million for 3 more years, you got him for 4 playoff runs. This team is being built the right way by Luc Robitaille, Rob Blake and company. So the Kings are getting back to where they were when they won their 2 Stanley Cups.
Yeah, it's always good to see the big markets do well in any of the sports, obviously, because it's good for the sports. And you did mention the Pacific is really overperformed, but it's pretty top heavy compared to the other divisions, right? They go much deeper, say in the Metropolitan or the Atlantic or even the Central. I mean, they definitely go deeper as far as good teams go.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, outside of like Calgary, Vegas, Edmonton, and LA, I think you drop off a little bit. Vancouver's playing a little bit better under Bruce Boudreau. They're still like kind of in the mix for the West, right there. Anaheim's definitely fallen off a bit. San Jose is just not there anymore. I mean, everybody used to remember when you go out to the West Coast, you take that California, the California trip of death, they called it. San Jose, LA, Anaheim. You never wanted to go out there. It was always tough to play. Still is always tough to play, to be honest. But I think the East Coast now is you play like Carolina, Florida, Tampa Bay. That's like the triangle you don't want to play right now because those teams are so hot. But yeah, even the Metro, even that goes deep because the Columbus Blue Jackets continue to win and they continue to play well, and they're making things interesting in the Eastern Conference playoff race right now. I mean, everybody thought Boston would have that second wild card seed sewed up. Everybody said, "Oh, chase Washington down. You may have a chance." Well, you know what? The Columbus Blue Jackets are doing that. Patrick Laine is playing really well right now as he's another restricted free agent this year. And Columbus and Detroit are making really things interesting. We thought the teams were locked. Not right now.
What are your thoughts as far as with the trade deadline approaching? Who's gonna you feel is gonna make the major move to put themselves over the top or get back into contention?
I think the Rangers are definitely going to be a team you're going to want to watch. I think they're going to look to add depth on defense and probably down the middle as well. They want to replace Sammy Blais, who was out for an injury for a long time, for the rest of the season. That happened, earlier in the season with PK Subban and the Devils. I think that's a team. Toronto is probably going to want to look to add depth, especially with Jake Muzzin out. They feel that he's going to return before, the playoffs, but, with heads and concussions, you just don't know with him. He's had 2 major headshots now in less than a month. So you don't know. They feel that they're playing with $2 million, not $7 million. So I don't know. I think the Leafs will look to do something. I think Calgary's going to look to add a defenseman. They already made the trade for Tyler Toffoli. That is paying off in spades. That's a great pickup by them. Dividends, through the roof for the Calgary Flames. Like I said, I mentioned LA. I think they're going to be in the market for defensemen. Florida, Tampa, Carolina, those teams are just going to look to add depth as well at the deadline. To me, what's interesting is I'm, hearing that the Devils might be buyers at the deadline, looking to improve for the future, looking to try to get some contracts that are controllable assets. Mm-hmm. So they don't have to look to continuously resign guys and build in the offseason. They may do something there. But, it's going to be interesting because, the Islanders, a lot of people had expectations for this year, and I think they're going to be a seller. I think they're going to sell off some pieces to teams that are contending. Colorado's going to look to add a goaltender, add some depth as well. So, the teams that are in it playoff-wise are the teams that are going to be doing things. But, you never know. There's always this random trade that happens at the deadline. Like last year, Anthony Mantha and Jacob Vrana, and no one really saw that coming. So right. I think we could see something else happen this year as well.
Excellent. I'm going to get to your questions here, guys. I'll get started here quickly. Wait for that one for Billy. Rick's just got a comment in here about his brother went to an Eagles concert at Panthers Stadium and said it's a beautiful facility. I don't know if you've been in it.
I have been in it. It's actually a really nice facility. BB&T Center is actually really nice. I was down there when I did the Florida swing with Tampa and Florida. Went to both. I think Amalie Arena is better, but both arenas are really nice. Good place to get a hockey game. It's a shame that even with the Panthers doing as well they're still not getting. They're drawing the attendance that they should be. But I think, if they continuously be good, be a good team and maybe make another cup final, you're going to see that team, get the attendance that they should.
Also, it just always seems, again, there's always been a debate, will hockey sell in Florida just because of the weather and everything else, I guess.
But Tampa Bay does well, so,
yeah,
but Tampa Bay's a winner, so that's the difference.
Yeah, you got to win. You got to win to put people in the seats. Topic I wanted to get into, and I'm going to get into it based on the fact that Rick's had this question up. He actually had it up before you came in the room, or as you were coming into the room.
Yeah, I saw this question. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this? I mean, again, obviously, there's a lot of guys from the Ukraine. There's a lot of guys from Russia, and how does this impact? I mean, either their relationships or the way it affects them mentally. I mean, how do you think this is going to impact the NHL overall?
I mean, I know Ovechkin came out the other day, he was careful with his words in regards to what he had to say against the Kremlin and Russia and in regards to everything, what was going on. I know he was very against it, but, he said he still had his family's over there right now. So he has to be very careful what he had to say. A lot of guys have been very careful of what they had to say in regards to the situation over in Ukraine and what's going on there. I know Dominik Hasek from the Czech Republic been very outspoken in regards to what the NHL should be doing in regards to Russia and Russian players. I don't think it has anything to do with the players themselves. It just
what can they do, right? I mean,
there's nothing they really can do. I mean, look, the IIHF and the IOC are definitely in talks this week in regards to moving tournaments out of Russia, in regards to the men's world and Belarus as well. They are moving tournaments. I think the 2023 World Juniors will probably be moved out of Russia, and the World Championships will be moved out of Russia. But that's as far as it's going to go. But again, players are just being very, very careful. I mean, you see it around the sports world. It's you saw Andrei Rublev in the tennis down at Acapulco. He wrote "No War, Please" on the camera instead of writing his name. So, I mean, the players are very outspoken, probably internally more outspoken than externally.
It's a hard situation. I mean, from a more on a personal note, and not the same. Well, because I don't have family like the Russians do, but our company has divisions all over the world, and we have people in the Ukraine. And our CEO comes on Friday, does a little chat every Friday, and for the last couple of months, he's talked about these people. We tried to get them out of there, I guess, and find other places for them to get safe harbor, but there's still like 20. And you listen to it, and then this last week he put out an email saying, pray for these people with their pictures, which I'd never seen before, and it has a different impact once you have a face to put to somebody. And you wonder what that person's going through right now. So I can only imagine what it's like for the NHL players with family and friends that are in the middle of this whole conflict on both sides.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know a lot of, like I said, players have been outspoken. And, they've talked to the media. I know Ovechkin. I know the day of the Ranger game when everything started to go down, they wanted him to talk, but he wanted to focus on the game instead. And then he came out after and talked about it. So I think he's trying to get ahead of things. Like all these players are just trying to get ahead of things here, but it's just tough because they have ties to Russia and everything there. I like I said, I think talking with some people, I think they're more internally they're outspoken than externally they're just trying to be careful with all the words they have to say.
His youngest, Kenny's young family, his youngest, I think he's saying here, has a family in Russia, so they're very worried, which I'm sure they are. What about? I mean. Other teams, there's got to be teams that have players from both regions on them, I would think. Mm-hmm. Is that the case? Have you heard any scuttlebutt? Are there issues that pop up between the two factions or not? Or they're just
no? I mean, everybody's just playing. Yeah, I mean, everybody just loves the game. That's what I'm hearing. And I know one of the teams from the KHL pulled out of the KHL playoffs. That there was a Russian team that played that was in the KHL playoffs and they pulled out because of what happened. But yeah, no, I mean everybody's they just want to play the game. They don't want any of this. They just want peace. They just want to play their game, and that's pretty much it. I mean, there's a bond between hockey players about the love of the game, and growing up, you don't really care where anybody's from. You just hope they're good, and that's about it. I mean, they don't, and nobody cares about your politics. They just know that if you're a good hockey player, you're on the team, you're going to support your teammate no matter what.
Well, that's where sports should be a good unifier, right? And rather than a divider like so much of the rest of our society. So what else should we know about this past few weeks since we've chatted, and what we should be looking for in the weeks to come?
Well, like I said, it's 3 weeks to the deadline. Monday, the 21st of March is the NHL trade deadline. So, there's going to be some action probably a little bit beforehand. No doubt there'll be deadline trading before that. There'll probably be trades on the deadline as well. I don't know how many big names will move, but they may move before the deadline. I want to see how these teams that are hot continue to be red hot. I want to see how Vegas continues to play. I know Jack Eichel's finally back in the lineup. There was a lot of talk about the Capster convention and LTIR when he came back. It's in the rule book. Teams have done it. Just because your team doesn't do it or their team does it better than your team is not against the rules. So get over that, because 11 of the 16 teams last year were over the salary cap come the playoffs. Right. So, you want to find ways to get around the salary cap or fix it or this and that. I've always said put it like an NBA salary cap, soft cap with luxury tax. I think that would be the best way to do it. Let the bigger teams spend and keep their players together, because that's what drives the market and that's what drives the game. That was the big thing. I want to see how Vegas does, especially with everybody there.
Not to interrupt you, but to back up to the salary cap for a second, I don't disagree with you, but when you apply the luxury taxes, let's just make sure that the teams that get paid actually use the money to improve their teams and put in their pocket, because we see that too much, especially in baseball, for instance. Too many of these teams put the money in their pocket rather than trying to improve their teams, which is what the system is meant for.
Right, exactly, and that's the issue right now with the hard salary cap in the NHL is that the bottom teams like Arizona don't spend even to the cap floor. They want to shed. So it's like, I know Gary Bettman, that's just a complete mess in Arizona too. That's a situation I want to watch, because apparently the PA had a meeting with the owner of the Coyotes and everything, and players aren't happy about going to a new building and that only seats 5,000 seats and they want to know like how they're going to get paid going forward, and it's just a complete mess. And I think time is finally running out on the Arizona Coyotes in Arizona. It's a shame, but it's just not working out. The league just has to look at it as a failure, because it just hasn't worked since the late 90s when they moved in and had a good team. So that's just something to watch out as well. But like I said, I think that's something you need to fix, because teams, like you said, if you're going to have the luxury tax, the teams have to use the money to spend. You have to put a limit on it, and that's what the cap floor was and the cap ceiling was in the NHL. So that's something to watch as well. Just in these playoff races is going to come down to what teams make moves. Like for instance, Nashville, right? They had a game last night. If they're gonna continue to start falling out and losing games, do they sell a guy like Philip Forsberg, who's an unrestricted free agent, needs a new contract? Contract negotiations aren't moving in the right direction, or if they stay in the mix, be in the top wild card spot in the Western Conference, do they just keep him as an own rental and hope to re-sign him? I don't know. His name's been out there. That's something to watch as well. So it's just a lot of interesting storylines going forward. Look, the Canadians and the Martin St. Louis, that was something we didn't talk about. Because the coaching change. Dominic Ducharme lost the room after early in the season. Imagine if they made this move earlier in the year. The Canadians actually might be in a playoff spot right now, considering the way that they're playing under Martin St. Louis. Cole Caulfield's playing better. Arturi Lekkonen's raising his draft stock. That's a guy that could be on the move. Ben Sherratt. Look, Jeff Gordon, I mentioned on my show, and he said, and other people are mentioning it every place else, Jeff Gordon's doing the same thing he did with the Rangers as he's doing in the Canadians. He just didn't come out and say it's a full-on rebuild with a letter. They're going to be active this offseason. They're going to look to add a big fish like the Rangers did to speed up that rebuild. So Canadians are a team to keep an eye on. Let's see if Martin St. Louis wants to keep coaching going forward, but they're playing a lot better, more competitive hockey. Let's see what the situation was. Carey Price. I saw somebody wants to know on the Flyers that team.
Yeah, that's around the rebuilding topic. Might as well address that.
Yeah, the Flyers are just a rebuild right now. I think they're definitely going to be sellers at the deadline. Who they move is going to be interesting. I think I've heard names Justin Braun could move. Rasmus Ristolainen could be on the move. We'll see if Claude Giroux gets moved. He's got no trade clause. I think he wants to finish out his career with the Flyers. Eddie's inching closer to 1,000 games played in the NHL, and I think he would want to do it with the Flyers. And I think that's the deadline we're looking at here, and that would be a couple of days before the trade deadline. So if he hits 1,000 games with the Flyers, once that happens, most likely he'll get moved. Maybe Colorado. That would be an interesting place for him to go. But the Flyers definitely just not the right coach. I think they got to get just look at themselves, see what they need to do. I like the addition of Cam Atkinson, but you got to get a better goalie for Carter Hart because they're just getting left out to dry right now.
One thing I want to back up to, you talked about the Coyotes and possibly being done in Arizona. Where would you see a possible landing spot for them?
I mean, I've heard Houston, Kansas City, places like that. There's always talk of relocation back to Quebec City as well. It's just the issue is with the Coyotes is, unless that 10-piece arena goes through, I don't think people want to go there. Players want to go there. Nobody's going to sign there. They've had issues. So it's just, I think it's just one of those things that you just got to chalk up and say, hey, we tried to keep it going. I know the reason they're keeping it longer going as is possible because the NHL's owned it and they're trying their best and they don't want to look foolish. Because imagine if they tried this hard in other places, maybe teams would have stayed outside of the Islanders, who I give them credit for trying to keep them there. Yeah, Oklahoma City's another spot as well.
I knew Alan would come up with that question.
Yeah, OKC's another spot. The issue is, where the arena, who they're going to be in with. If it's a shame that the Coyotes couldn't get in with the Suns in the downtown arena because that would be really good.
Yeah, and Brett Cloutier, who was a former very high-level minor league hockey player. Welcome, Brett. Used to work for me as well. Good to see you, Mr. Cloutier. He mentions Houston as a potential.
Houston definitely is definitely keeping their pockets open for sure for the Coyotes to move there.
And since Brett may not have been here when we talked about this, he's talked about the need for the Rangers to go all in now while they have the cap room. So I think we did touch on that a little bit. And yes, I agree. They need to go all in. This is a great chance for them to win a Stanley Cup this year, right?
I mean, they are going all in now.
Yeah.
Because of all the changes they made last year. We talked about it. We addressed it. Moving out Gordon, moving out Davidson, bringing in Drury. All the moves that they made to get tougher. The Ryan Reeves, the Sammy Blaze, the Barclay Goudreaus. Yes, Zibanejad's new contract kicks in. Fox's new contract kicks in. Shesterkin's new contract's going to kick in. These guys are going to, this team may be a little different next year. I think they want to add a center depth. That's what they want to do. They have the room to do everything now. It's playoffs or bust for this team, and you're seeing it on the ice right now with the product. They have a great coach in Gerard Gallant. I like the way they're playing. It's just one of those teams I had my eye on entering the season because it was all or nothing this year because it was all on James Dolan because if these moves didn't work, then it was on him. They're working. This is the trajectory the Rangers were on, and they're going to be a good team for a while now with the young core that they have in place. It just depends on what they give up to get the players that they want.
Yeah. This is Brett's thoughts on what they should be going after, I guess. So
and if you can choose one, it'd probably be depth defense and center, or two, center and depth defense, because that's what wins in the playoffs. You see it with every team. You saw with Tampa the last couple of years to add depth defensemen. Washington, St. Louis, they just added depth because that's what you need in the playoffs. Say somebody gets hurt, just next guy up.
Agreed. Before I let you go, I did have a question, which was just Billy Pulver brought up a long time ago, which I want to put up. So I know the answer to the first part of this. So obviously OTL is overtime losses.
Yeah.
Is it important in the standings? Does it come into play somewhere where it makes a difference?
It does, because it's the loser point. So for instance, like, team's got a 6-game point streak, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but one of those point streaks, one of those games was an OTL loss. So you get 1 point in the standing. It's a 3-point games. You have 3-point games every night because if if you lose in overtime or in a shootout, you get 1 point no matter what. So it kind of helps you stay in the playoff race. You're not out of it as.
I hate this, by the way. What are your thoughts?
I really hate this. I really hate the loser point. Like it, and the issue is it makes the last couple of minutes of either overtime or the regulation just meaningless because everybody knows they have at least 1 point to bank in the system. So then you're just trying to play for the extra one. Some overtime games are great, but if you know it's late and you got the shootout, you're just gonna just play for the shootout, which I hate.
Yeah.
I wish there was like a 3-2-1 system, something like that. Like no points if you lose. Even if you lose in overtime, it's the tie point that you get that you were supposed to get, I guess. So you could keep that around. But still, I hate the fact that it's false parity in the league because the NHL created it with this system having a shootout and everything like that. I just don't like it. It keeps teams around longer than they should. But you know what? Hey, it's the system that we have. So, but I never liked it.
And then Kenny, I'll give you. This is funny. You stand strong on your words. Mancini's just a poster. That's actually related to this. I'm going to say thanks for coming in too. Rick Sherlock says thanks for coming in. Mark Mancini's in hiding since the Rams won the Super Bowl. So he'll be in next week. I promise you guys. He'll be back. He thinks he's dressed as a tree in a Carfax commercial. That's where he's hiding. So it's possible.
He's a poser.
That's a little harsh.
No. Mark Mancini's a good dude.
He's a good guy. He has some different outlooks on things. And if it's LA, he hates it. So I don't know why he's living there, but God bless him. So
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Jim, I appreciate your time this morning and catching us up. We're probably going to have you on much more regularly as we get through not just the trade deadline here in a few weeks, but also the push to the playoffs. And then obviously we got that 6-month playoff season as well. So
well, it feels like 6 months, but it's only a couple month playoff run.
No, I know. All right. Well, thanks for coming in, and we'll chat with you probably next week, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me on the Sunday morning talking hockey. It's been good.
Awesome. Talk to you soon. Have a great day.
Talk to you soon. You too. Bye.
Bye. The wonderful, knowledgeable Jim Beringer. Love having Jim on. Guys, thanks for contributing as well. I know Jim's got a very popular spot, and I promise you, as we go forward, we will have Jim on much more as we go forward. Let's see what else we got here. If I missed on comments here. I love that. I love the tree. I love this tree comment, Rick. That is awesome. You know what? I don't know if Jim Mark's a poser, Kenny, but I don't. Again, I do think, and I've said this to Mark, that I think whatever he's going to come out anti-LA no matter what he does. Kind of like ties. Going back to the. You should not. I don't have a problem with the guys getting a point for a tie, but when you get points for losses, it's just. I know you were just joking, Kenny. It's fine because Mark. I get on Mark sometimes because I think if it's got LA in the name, unless it's got. I'm not sure why he's living there. His wife must make him stay there. I don't know. We're going to talk NCAA. Let's just do this right now. Rick brings up my Arkansas pick. Says I was going to do the NCAA a bit after, but I think we're going to jump into it right now. So look at yesterday was upset Saturday. 6 of the top, the very top 6 teams in the country lost yesterday. All of them. 7 of the top 10 lost. Alan, and welcome, Alan, by the way. Saw you pop in, and Kenny, you popped in, and Rick, I know you popped in while I was chatting with Jim. But yesterday in the NCAA, 7 of the top 10 lost, and Alan pointed out to me in a message this morning that that's the first time in history that's happened in a day, and it's amazing what happened here. Let's just to kind of review it real quickly. St. Mary's beats number 1 Gonzaga by 10 at home. I'm not shocked. St. Mary's has got a really good team, and the Western Collegiate Conference is much better than it's been in the past. It's often been a 1-bid league unless Gonzaga were to get beat in the conference tournament. And I think it might be a 3-bid league this year, as I've talked about on the Sports Huddle, because I think San Francisco is still in the mix, and Santa Clara is out there, not that far off the bubble because they've beat some of the best teams in this league, including St. Mary's, including San Francisco. So it could be interesting to see what happens there. I think they got a realistic shot at 3 teams, though. Then Colorado beats number 2 Arkansas by 16 at home. Colorado sneakily has a good team and could be putting themselves in position to be considered as a 4th seed out of the Pac-12. So that's a big win yesterday. Arkansas, Arizona. I'm going to get to Arkansas in a second. Auburn, who was number 1 just not too long ago, loses again. 3 times in the last couple weeks. They've lost to a very good Tennessee team who's playing very well under Rick Barnes in the SEC. They lose by what they lose by 5. They were down significantly in the second half here. And they made a little run at the end. They got to within 3 with, 15 seconds left or something. But fell short. Michigan State, who I've been bashing for weeks, and I don't ever bash Tom, is always one of the best coaches in the history of college basketball. Always has teams that perform well come conference tournament time, come NCAA tournament time. But this year they've been crashing the last month or better, to the point where they've fallen out of the top 25. Well, they'll probably jump back in because they beat number 4 Purdue, who's starting to have their own problems playing defense of all things. Purdue's always been known for their defense, and they fell back. And I'm going to get to your comment here in a second, Rick, and I'll get to all of your comments here as soon as I get through this top 10. Baylor, who, they're in the top 10, so they're the one team that did win, or one of the teams that did win, including Duke. They beat Kansas pretty handily at 10 at home. Baylor gets themselves back in the discussion for a number 1 seed now. We'll see. I think, and we'll talk about it in a second, but I don't think the number 1 seeds are going to change that much. I think one of them off of this result will change. Arkansas, again at home, beats number 6 Kentucky. I've been talking up Arkansas for a couple of weeks. In fact, Wednesday night, and again on Mac and Jack show, I'm making Arkansas my dark horse pick to win it all. Playing great basketball the last 6 weeks in a very good SEC. Eric Musselman, I think, is one of the most underrated coaches in the country. Did a great job at Nevada before landing here in Arkansas, and he was in the NBA as a coach before that. And this is a team that just seems to be gelling at the right time. And I've got myself a futures wager to win the NCAA tournament. 100 to win 8,000. So I'm excited about the way Arkansas is playing. Duke rolled over Syracuse, by the way. So one of the winners in the Big Ten. Syracuse is done. Syracuse had put themselves, I think, back in position until this week they were getting close to the bubble after having a horrendous season under Jim Boeheim. But now they've had back-to-back losses and just a horrendous 25-point loss at home to Duke yesterday. And Duke's ranked 7th in the country, and they put themselves in the number one seed conversation with all the losses yesterday. But it's not, this isn't a classic Duke team, and to get beat by 25 at home that's an embarrassment for Syracuse, and that will probably put the final nail in their coffin. TCU beats one of Allen's favorite teams out there in the Big 12 and keeps their own NCAA hopes alive, because they've had a tough week before this. They beat Texas Tech again at home, 69-66. And that will cover all of the nonsense that went on in the Big Ten yesterday, the top 10 yesterday in NCAA basketball. So let's see what kind of comments we have here. The first one was Rick. Arkansas did beat Kentucky, and I do think Arkansas is a dark horse in the tournament. They're definitely in the NCAA tournament. They're likely moving towards, what were they ranked here? 18. They're going to move up significantly. They're looking towards another top 4 seed potentially in the tournament, and maybe even a 3 if they continue this run through the rest of the regular season and the SEC tournament. So we'll see what happens there. So 7 of the top 10 lost last night, as we talked about, and Virginia did lose as well. You know, there were some other losers in the top 25. UCLA bounced back nicely, by the way. They needed a win badly and a big win. Oregon State, after a really good run last year, in fact, winning a couple games in the NCAA tournament, are just atrocious this year. There were only 3 wins in the year, 1 in the Pac-12. They get beat by 39, but they get beat by, I can't do math, 39 at home. They lose to UCLA. Rutgers with a bad loss to Wisconsin, 66-61. Rutgers again battling for an at-large bid. I think the Big Ten will have the most bids, as I talked about on the Wednesday show, and we'll go into all of this in more detail on Wednesday. USC beats Oregon. That's a big game too, by the way. Both of those teams, USC's in the tournament. Oregon's battling for position. Murray State continues to win. Texas gets by West Virginia by 1. Again, all those people talking up West Virginia for the NCAA tournament, 14-5. I'm saying 14-15 overall. 3 and 13 in the Big 12. Please don't talk about West Virginia. Please don't talk about Oklahoma. Please don't talk about Iowa State as, potentially being in the top 12. I'm sorry, in the good grief, in the NCAA tournament, when we've got much better options in some of these other leagues. This has got to be with this. This is back to Mark Mancini. I'm sure with his attitude, he can't be in the Northeast. Probably right. St. Mary's seems to give the Zags problems all the time. I agree with that, Kenny. St. Mary's, well coached. This team is all, look at, they'll never be look at that league's still a mid-major, right? The WCC is still a mid-major. Gonzaga is not a mid-major. They're a power team. St. Mary's is one of the best mid-major teams in the country year in and year out, though. They're very consistent, and they do give Gonzaga, even in their best years, they give Gonzaga a run. So that's a good catch by you, Kenny. The happiest this morning, I would say Duke and Baylor fans are probably happy, Alan, because I think, here's what I think, and I know we got some more comments here. I'll go through the comments and I'll make a couple of, when it comes down to the tournament, it's the teams that play defense with abandonment and just swarm all over the team. True, you know what it takes? The teams that really go deep in the tournament, I think conference tournaments in the NCAA tournament are guys with really good guard play. And a lot of times now it's the teams with what am I looking for? Experience. If there's so many one and dones. You're not seeing a one and dones necessarily win it all anymore. So, at least the guys that have been there a couple of years. Billy still thinks the Zags win it all again, or Zaga wins it all. Look, they're still going to be one of the favorites, or probably they may not be the number 1 seed. Well, they'll probably still be the number 1 seed in the tournament after this week. They were going in. That's according to your daughter. Boomer Sooner still. Oh, please, you got to stop. I'll address this in a second. We'll address it more. Let me just look real quick. I got to address this comment. Let me find my standings here. Let's just look. We're going to look at the Big 12, and we'll look at Oklahoma. 6-10, okay? I'm sorry, I got the wrong team. They're in 9th place in the conference. I know it's the Big 12, but there's only 10 teams. They're 9th place in the conference at 5-11. And they're 15-14 overall, Alan. Okay? Let's look at the Big East and some teams that aren't getting in. St. John's isn't getting in. They're 7-9, 15-12. Not even going to be considered. I had some other. Let's look at the Big Ten and look at some of the teams that'll get in there. Oh my gosh. I went through this. I know you had to get off the line the other night when I ended this. Michigan's on the bubble, 9-7 in the better league, 15-11. They're on the bubble. Rutgers 10-8, 16-12 on the bubble. Over 500 in their conference. Indiana, 8-9, under 500. And I don't think you should get in if you're under 500 in your conference, by the way. 17-10 overall. So, I mean, by your standard, Penn State should have a shot to get in at 7-10 and 12-13 overall. I mean, Alan, I cannot back that. Again, early in the year, I thought the Big 12 was really deep. And I think right now, once I get past Texas, I'll give you Texas. I'll give you TCU. That's all you're getting in. 5 teams, I'm pretty sure. That's it. Big Ten's going to have 9. I'd be shocked if they don't. I will say if Baylor gets healthy, they have a good chance to repeat. You know, that's been an issue for them this entire, at least second half of the season, if not more. Allen has been health for Baylor, and that's their number one problem. And if they're getting healthy, and they beat a really good Kansas team, obviously, yesterday, they will be moving forward and competing for that number or for that national championship. Alan, name the last time one of those 3 teams were significant. Which teams are we talking about? Oh, West Virginia. So, they've got West Virginia now. Okay, I'm glad you aren't saying West Virginia was still alive. Look at to Alan's point though, or to Kenny's point, it's been a while for Oklahoma. They went downhill with Jeff Capel, who's taken Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was already down when he got there, but he has not brought them back. He's probably getting fired this year. West Virginia's been good several times in the last decade. Bob Huggins always has pretty good teams. This year's probably his worst, maybe his worst team that he's had since he's been at West Virginia. So they've been relevant, here and there through the years. They're not a consistent championship contender by any means, but I certainly get your point, Kenny. Michigan gets in. I'm sure Michigan will get in on a solid uppercut. Very funny line there. Michigan's going to get in. I'm almost positive, by the way, Michigan's getting in. They're now 2-0 under Phil Martelli, by the way, a really good guy to have as an interim coach, as he's got plenty of experience as an NCAA coach, 24, 25 years at St. Joe's, and coached some pretty good teams there, and coaching the NCAA tournament a lot of times. Actually went into the tournament undefeated one year, if you remember when Jameer Nelson was there at St. Joe's. I was looking for Michigan's record right now. So I will tell you, and we're going to dive into this a lot. I'm not going to spend the whole hour on this, but I want to continue to talk about it as long as you guys are into it. I was looking for the Big Ten. Where the heck did it go? Oh, there it is. So yes, I think Michigan's getting in at 9-7 and 15-11 and overall. I think they're in. I think the Big Ten is getting in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think they get 9 teams in. Wisconsin's in, Purdue's in, Illinois is in, Ohio State's in, Iowa now is in my mind. Michigan could still fall the other way, but I think they're in, unless they just completely crap the bed here the next few years. Few weeks. Michigan State, I still think will get in, especially after their win yesterday, even despite their struggles recently. I think Rutgers gets in, and I think Indiana's going to get in. Great job, I think, by Mike Woodson in his first year as the head coach at his alma mater, and I think he's done a great job. And a bit of a hire that was a bit disputed amongst the IU fans when it was made. I don't know where the sad New Yorker is today. He might be out selling advertising, hopefully. I was at a cave for a few days. The owners, they didn't shut down yet. Tomorrow is the deadline before regular season's games will start to be canceled. I don't know how many they'll cancel at once. We'll get to that in a second. That's going to be my next topic is Major League Baseball. We're going to talk about the lockout a little bit. I want to get away from it a little bit and start looking ahead at what dominoes are going to fall quickly when that does happen. So what does this mean for the seeding? I don't think it means that much. The number one seeds before this, were Gonzaga, Arizona, Auburn, and Kansas, I believe. I believe Kansas will probably fall out. I think the other three will stay, although Auburn's going to be in danger. But the teams that could move up, I think Duke's got a shot to move up to a number one seed now. And we'll see when Joe Lunardi puts out his brackets. And I don't believe they do another in-season ranking. It's not a weekly thing like the football does. I don't think there'll be another in-season ranking like they did a couple of weeks ago. But the teams that have the best chances to move up also lost, right? I mean, Purdue lost. Kentucky lost. Villanova, what'd they do this weekend, by the way? Let's just see some here. Villanova, their last game they lost, so it's unlikely they're going to move up. So it looks like it's either Duke's going to move into a number one spot or Baylor, or it stays the same as far as the number one seeds go. Probably very little change. Yeah, probably. I'm trying to get Goose Gossage. We're going to move on. I think we've covered enough. Since you guys definitely want to talk baseball, as do I, and I do want to get some NFL stuff in. We'll move on from this since we do an entire show on it. If you got any questions, I'll back up. The sad New Yorkers still shove them. But no more football. The show is extreme. You guys are rough, man. Listen, Rick's been agreeing more and more with Carlos lately, so I'm falling down. Providence won the Big East. What does it mean, though? If we're talking about the fact that they won the regular season, let's just check that out. Is that what you're talking about? Crap. Where'd my standings go? How did I get the two rankings? And one standings. Hold on. Let's look at the Big East real quick. If Providence has wrapped up the regular season, all it does, the regular season means so little these days. I don't know that they've wrapped it up. They're 14-2. Villanova's 14-4. So even if they've wrapped it up, I mean, all it does is get them the number one seed in the tournament. So it doesn't mean in the Big East tournament. It is a tough crowd around here, Billy. Rick agrees, only have a good laugh. All right, we can go back to college basketball later if we want, but let's jump in since you guys have had some comments already. Let's jump into the Major League Baseball situation. So I want to make sure that I don't put lockout in. I'm not putting lockout in my banners or in my just show descriptions because I got kicked out, not kicked out, but my shows got kicked out and twice in the last week from some of the baseball groups that let me share because I had lockout in the description and some of them don't want to talk about it. Again, don't bury your heads, guys. This is a reality. I'm not talking politics. I'm talking, millionaires fighting billionaires, and it's ridiculous that this fight is going on and continues to go on. As Rick said here, let's see, Rick had a comment somewhere. The talks are going poorly. I mean, they made these tiny little incremental steps on Friday, the players making tiny concessions, and it looked like it was earth-shattering, right? And they make a big deal about how they met 4 out of 5 days last week. Gee, I go to work every day. And if you got a labor dispute and you've had it since December 2nd, and I said this last week that, they made a comment that they'd meet every day if they had to. The season regular season games are now on the line if they don't come to an agreement by tomorrow, and it's not going to happen. Or no, I'm sorry. I think I got to come to an agreement by next Monday, or regular season games will start to be canceled. not postponed, canceled. That's when things will start to get ugly in Major League Baseball and with their fan base. And again, Kenny, I know you're going to say, "Oh, okay, we need a shorter season anyway." I don't believe that. Baseball is a marathon, and that's what it was. That's what it's meant to be. That's why it's different than the rest of the sports. You prove yourself by playing every day for 6 months, and I don't want to see the game change diametrically like that. We don't need that. I don't think. So again, to your comment there about the owners, will they shut down Major League Baseball for a season? No. If they do, they're nuts. Anything's possible today. Had questions come up on our show Friday. Could Major League Baseball survive if they sat out a season? I say no. There'll be a Major League Baseball, MLB, but it won't be the same. They will lose their TV contracts. They will lose the ability to charge people what they charge them. They will lose at the turnstile. And turnstile still is not that most important thing. It's the TV dollars. It's the advertising dollars. That's what matters in these situations. So to me, it's going to be pretty ugly what happens. What do you got here? Kenny's missing his cinnamon buns. Let's see. From what I've seen, the Mets are going to have an extremely good pitching staff. They are, and we're going to start talking more baseball. And I'm going to get into it in a little bit. A few things to kind of look for when we do have baseball, because there's a lot. There's a lot of free agents out there. There's a lot of teams with a lot of moves to still make, and I think the Mets are probably one of them. And the Mets are going to have a very good pitching staff. Oh, you're in Indiana, so no cinnamon buns. You can't get cinnamon buns. Your wife can't bake in Indiana. They don't have the ingredients. What's the deal? No one wants to hear the truth. It's just, I agree. When you're going to talk baseball on a show like this, you cannot talk it. Or if you're going to be in a group on Facebook or wherever, how do you avoid the fact that the players and owners are in a bitter fight over billions of dollars? And it's ridiculous that you can't make it work. Alan's still stuck in the Big East here. Friars haven't won the regular season championship title in their history. Well, then that is a big deal. So I'll give you that. That's a big deal. They got to win the number one seed. They got to win the tournament though to really fortify their spot in the NCAA tournament. They need to win. Midwest food sucks. Well, go to the store, get the stuff. Alan must be in Texas. Alice is in Oklahoma. Alice. Sorry, Alan. Alan is in Oklahoma, Billy. You guys must not have crossed paths before, which I'm shocked because you're both here a lot. And I appreciate all you guys, by the way, coming in. So there you go. Oklahoma. There are people that will say that's the same, and I know that's an insult, so I will not say that for sure. What are some of the other things going on in Major League Baseball, though? We talked about the Kyler stay. I will say, now I'll wait till I get to the end of this segment for that. When it comes to baseball, this lockout will end. Whether it ends in time for the regular season to start on time is debatable. Whether it ends and we only have 100-game season, 120-game season, whatever it is, it's going to end. And I do hope we get a full season, by the way, because I am not looking forward to anything less than a full season here. Alan's talking about the teams. Yes, we know you root for the Rangers. We know, and the Rangers are one of the few teams, as are the Mets, that before the lockout started, they made a flurry of moves to get out in front of this. Carlos has arrived. They're way apart on the starting wages. They're still apart on the arbitration. They're still apart on the luxury tax and the penalties for going over it, and also the penalties for not using the money you're given from the luxury tax correctly. They're far apart on lots of things. It has to end. MLB will have to pay back TV contracts. I agree, Carlos, and welcome, Carlos. You've been missed and talked about here. Let's get back. Here's some things, and you guys can comment on this. Here, I'm going to talk now about some things that will happen immediately, have to happen immediately after this lockout ends. Number one thing, Freddie Freeman is going to sign very quickly. And I do not think it's going to be with the Braves. I think from everything I'm hearing, or a lot of the things I'm hearing, I do hear he'll be back with the Braves, but I hear a lot of chatter that Freddie Freeman and his people are very upset that the Braves did not lock him out before the lock him up before the lockout started December 2nd. And he's holding a grudge here. And, the Braves would be foolish to let him walk away. But I can tell you there are teams out there, including one here in the Northeast called the New York Yankees, he would be the perfect signing for. And the Yankees got a lot of work to do. They got work to do at first base unless they bring Rizzo back. They got work to do at shortstop. They got work to do at catcher. They got work to do in center field. They got work to do at starting pitching. So one of the big things you're going to see is Freddie Freeman's going to sign somewhere pretty quick. Is it going to be back with Atlanta? I'm not so sure. If he doesn't sign there, it could be the Braves, it could be the Dodgers, could be the Yankees. He'll have no lack of suitors if they were to decide to do this. Now, the problem with the Yankees is they were already locked into huge contracts with Cole and Stanton. So what are you able to do? Freeman could stay with the Braves, Carlos, as you and I have talked about. I just don't see that happening. Right now, if the strike had been settled or the lockout had been settled, or he had been locked up before the lockout, the Braves would be in much better shape than they are trying to sign him once this is over, because you're going to have days. The first 2 or 3 days of the end of the lockout is going to be a flurry of activity. First thing you're going to see is Freddie Freeman sign somewhere, I think. Yankees can't sign Judge. I'm not going to get into that debate today. We will, but they don't need to address it today. They don't need to address it. That's not their most pressing need right now, is to do something with his contract. They'll have to do something during the season, possibly, or not, if they're going to walk away from him. Who knows what's going to happen? Rick does give you a Carlos, all kidding aside. Good show Friday. There you go. See that, Carlos? You're winning Rick over. I'm losing him. I don't even know who you are anymore, Rick. Texas is in a bid for Freeman, too. Yeah, but how much is Texas going to spend, Alan? They've already spent a ton of money before the lockout ended. I don't know. They don't have unlimited resources. And they need pitchers, too, by the way. Freeman likes Georgia. You know what? I know Freeman likes Georgia living. I know the Braves love Freeman. But I will tell you, don't ever say never. Not when it comes to sports, not when it comes to money, and not when it comes to ego. And Freddie Freeman, I love Freddie Freeman. He's the face of the Braves. And if the Braves let him walk, they'd be nuts. But I think it's at least 50-50 whether Freddie Freeman stays with the Braves or walks. Yeah, well, whatever. I mean, that's possible. Everybody does that. Everybody postures, but also they move as well. So Kenny's going to get Rick back to the dark side. Second thing, the Oakland Athletics are going to execute some major subtraction. Most likely at Olsen, Matt Chapman are the two main candidates. Olsen has certainly been in talks. He'll be in talks with the Braves, or there'll be discussion about Olsen with the Braves if Freeman were to walk, for sure. If he doesn't walk, then Olsen will be in discussion with the Yankees, as he already has been. He'll also be with the Rangers to Alan's point about wanting a first baseman. But again, I don't know if the Rangers have unlimited resources. Freeman is old, by the way, older. But guys play older today. And again, you know what? He's going to get paid too much for too long and won't be worth the money at the end of his contract, which is what happens when guys are, I don't know, what is he? I think he's 33 years old. I'm not positive. One of you guys can correct me on that if I'm wrong. Yeah, I agree. And that, as a Met fan, you should be very happy about that, Carlos, by the way. Alan, to believe the main move the Rangers are going to try after the lockout is to go after Kershaw. That's another topic I'll be talking about here in a second. They brought up in a pitcher already, and I know who is the pitcher they brought in, by the way. I know Kershaw's on their radar. Kershaw's a guy you got to be very careful about, though. He needs to sign a contract like Scherzer for 2 years. You don't sign him for 6, right? You don't sign Clayton Kershaw for 5 or 6 years, or you're getting nothing out of that contract on the back end. Nothing. It'll be dead weight on your cap. Old school. He's old school for sure. And he also knows his career is a short side, so money is going to be the money. I agree. These guys have got a limited window to earn money. That's one of the things they're arguing about right now. You know, is that they don't get a chance. Aaron Judge is going to be 30 years old when he gets a chance to walk for the first time. That's one of the things they're arguing about. And I'm not taking sides in this. A lot of people are taking the player sides and really on the owners. I'm on both sides. Guys, this is millionaires and billionaires. Figure it out. It's a lot of money. You're all making money except for the kids. The kids are the guys that get hurt. You know, always when there's a labor dispute, the guys who are leading the unions are the guys who have made their money. Kershaw needs that price contract. Yeah. If he does, then that's a stupid move by Texas if that happens. Right. All right. Actually, the next thing I have on my list, we're going to find out what Clayton Kershaw wants. We know that Kershaw is going to the Hall of Fame at some point, and it'll be a near unanimous vote. I doubt he'll get in unanimously, but he'll get in first ballot. But it's not clear what he's going to want to do now. Does he want to pitch for the Dodgers and be one of those one-team Hall of Famers, which are going to be rare going forward, obviously? Or does he consider the Rangers, as we talked about, or some other team? I don't know who else is really going to be in the hunt for Kershaw, given his history the last few years with injuries and whatnot. But I think it's very clear that this is something that's got to get cleared up within the first couple of days. Like all of the things I'm going to talk about here, these things need to happen probably in 24 to 48 hours of the lockout ending. And the longer it goes, the more urgent these topics get. Oh, what do we got here? Well, I'm not saying he hasn't earned money, Kenny, but he hasn't not been able to hit the open market. That's my point. That's what they're arguing about. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just making a comment about that's one of the topics that is so greatly dividing the two sides right now, is when players become arbitration eligible and when they can become free agents. And what the teams do with their service time, manipulating service time. It's very hard to do anything to keep that from happening. But, and again, I'm not telling you I'm on either side of this. I have a hard time getting behind anybody here. I just want baseball. John Gray they signed. Right. So, well, John Gray's a decent pitcher outside of Colorado. I do know they signed Marcus Semien and Corey Seager. Those are huge moves. I agree. I'm not sure they got money left to sign a Freddie Freeman. They may be better off probably making a trade for Olsen. Well, it's a little early for that, but I will say that, again, I've said for a long time, and I know I'll get a disagreement from my co-host on Fridays, a Mad New Yorker, that Buck Showalter was the best hire for the Mets. and he would have been the best new hire for the Yankees. The Yankees should have moved on from Aaron Boone. I would have fired him at midseason last year and brought Buck in while he was still under contract for the Yankees in the broadcast booth, and they had him right under the roof. And if not, I would have fired Buck Aaron after the season, including with Brian Cashman, and brought in Buck and whoever to be the GM. So I do think Showalter's got a shot at the World Series, yes. And we'll certainly get into all of that. It's hard to really make any predictions when there's so many moves yet to be made amongst all these teams. The Mets have made a lot of moves, and the talk is that they're not done. When the lockout ends, they will be very active. Kershaw's from Texas, so they have the home field advantage. Agreed. I think myself, Alan, I think Kershaw goes nowhere. I think he stays with the Dodgers. If he leaves, I think the only place he would go is Texas. I do believe that. You know what? Nolan Ryan at 75 years old might still pitch better than some of these guys, and he probably pitched longer. My favorite video, by the way, guys, my favorite moment in baseball, I like Robin Ventura. He was a great player, great fielder. And the best thing was, I think he was 22 years old at the time, and Ryan was 47. I might have I could have both ends wrong, but the disparity was there. It was 20 to 25 years difference. And if you haven't seen this video, you've got to watch it. I wish I could bring it up quick and play it for you guys. Go Google Nolan Ryan against, who was I just talking about? Robin Ventura. And watch him charge the mound and watch the old man kick the crap out of the young kid. It's awesome. I know what that's for, Carlos. Alan, we're talking about the Rangers. I'm sure they have the money, but management has never pulled the trigger on spending it. And Texas has put most of their focus on the farm system, which is getting better. Well, good. And hopefully they're building the team the right way, because you can't just build it through free agency. The Rangers have gone down that road before. The Yankees have done it for a gazillion years. Don't forget, when the Yankees had a dynasty in the 90s, it wasn't built on free agency. It was built through their farm system and a couple of smart trades and some free agents here and there, but free agency wasn't the core of what caused them to win. It was guys that they brought up from their own farm system, like Jeter and Rivera and Posada and Andy Pettit. And then you build around that. And that's still the way it works. What else we got here? Fans have been mad at GM Chris Young for not spending money the past few years. So the GM Chris Young, that is the pitcher, correct? The guy who's about 6'10". See you later, Billy. Good to hear you, buddy. Glad you're doing better as well. And Bernie, Jesus, how did I forget Bernie? Thank you, Carlos. I left Bernie out of that conversation. Maybe probably the most underrated cog of that Yankee dynasty. Thank you, Carlos, for catching me there. Another thing that's going to happen. The teams in need of shortstop better be ready the minute the lockout ends. If it ends at 12:01 tonight, they better be on the phone, because Carlos Correa, and Trevor Story are going to be hot commodities, and they're going to be looking at money in the vicinity of what Lindor got, what Corey Seager just got, and then you also got to be comfortable with the fact that Correa's got some back issues, and Correa's got which I don't think should follow him around. He's got the whole sign stealing thing of following him around. But whoever it is, you better do your due diligence here and watch what you're paying for. Same with Story. Story's not a young guy. Story's has had some injury issues the last couple of seasons. He's had some throwing problems. So is Story even going to stay a shortstop? It's going to be very interesting to see as well. We got here, Kenny's got Alan, don't worry, Texas will become its own country. That's a good one, actually. That's a good one. If they secede from the Union, Hey, these two, but then would they be able to play in the league? I don't know. I guess Canadian teams play, so why not? I know. I feel horrible that I forgot about Bernie. Everybody forgets about Bernie. Bernie is a Roy White of those dynasty teams, right? Roy White is another guy who's been mistreated. And Maury Bauer, I wish you were here watching the show today because I know you'd appreciate this. Roy Bauer helped me get Roy White on my show. And Roy White is a classy individual, and he was the unsung hero of the Yankees. First of all, before they got good again in the 70s, he was a mainstay. Him and Bobby Mercer, Thurman Munson, and some others. But Roy White was kind of the unsung guy on those teams as they got better again. They always tried to replace him, and he's never gotten his due. I see guys, don't get me going. It's a different topic. I'll bring it up another day. But some of the guys I've seen their numbers retired, I don't get it. There's other guys that are more deserving than some of the guys I've seen get it. Rangers were 10-11, mostly built in 10-11, were mostly built through the minor league systems. Did they win? Oh, they did win. By the way, foolish move of them firing Ron Washington. Very good manager. Very surprised he hasn't gotten another shot. I know there's some underlying issues with drug use and whatnot. He's getting probably a little long in the tooth, but Ron Washington was brought up in discussions with some of the open jobs this past season. I believe he's with the Braves now. Ron Washington did a great job with the Texas Rangers. We do know that they will not win until Jerry kicks the bucket. Also have fun with Jordan Love the next few years. I don't for a second think we're going to talk. Let's not get too far in the NFL. We'll talk about that topic here in a second once I get through this list. Bernie didn't talk the crap. He just played the game. Agreed. Bernie was one of those, and Roy White, same kind of player. As far as just coming to the park and doing their job. Bernie was better, but Roy White was a great, consistent player for a long time. That's why I compare the two. Alan agrees he hated it when they let Wash go. You know, it was very convenient for him to do once he stopped winning games as consistently and some of the personal problems that were lingering there. Let's move on to my next topic. I've got a few more here. The best available relievers are going to go very quickly. There's not that many guys out there. Inglese from the Angels, I believe. Aaron Loop. I'm sorry. They both signed with the Angels. I'm sorry. So I got screwed up. There are some big guys names available, like Jansen's available. I'm not a big Kenley Jansen fan, but he's available. Josh Hader is an interesting name that's potentially available in a trade, as is Craig Kimbrell. I love Josh Hader. I would love it if the Yankees had a way to move Chapman out and Hader in, to be honest with you. I would love to see that. A couple other comments. Yankees always had a few players that got overlooked, but with some of the best in the game, I hated them. You know what? They're easy to hate because they were good. Everybody hates the teams that are good. John Daniels took over right from trying to remember the guy that was before him. Very good GM, both in Cleveland and Texas. Now, I know you'll give me his name. It's escaping me right now. And John Daniels did take it down. Nolan Ryan, when he was running the Rangers, he was heading in the right direction. He was teaching pitchers. He was having his pitchers in the minor leagues actually throw a lot of innings and pitch and increase pitch counts, not decrease them, because he knew that pitchers would get to the major leagues and never pitch in big spots. So he was actually trying to change the dynamic that was really in full flux of changing at that point in time as far as starting pitching. And I wish that he'd had a chance to finish that job. John Hart, I think, is the guy I'm thinking of, Alan. Wasn't John Hart the GM there before John Daniels? If I'm wrong, let me know. I know he's with the Indians as well. What's next? The Mets will spend more money. Buck Showalter kind of inadvertently talked about it this week. He talked about the fact that they may still sign their own free agent, Michael Conforto. Mets have already spent a lot of money, but the Mets still have some things to kind of look at. And Steve Cohen, I think, has made it clear that money is not an issue. And I don't think, whatever the cap ends up being, I don't think the Mets are concerned at what that cap is, like the Yankees would appear to be. Back Allen had one of the best pitching coaches in the league at that time. Yeah, I'm trying to remember who it was. Was it Mike? Was it Maddox? Was it Mike Maddox? Bernie played the anthem at the Hall of Fame inductions for Mariano. Yes, that was pretty cool. And Bernie also was inducted into New York State Baseball Hall of Fame, I think, this past year as well. I wanted to go to I think he's either going in or he went in. I think he went in last year. And I really wanted to go to the inductions. I'm going this year. Renee LaRue does a great job there. Rennie LaRue does a great job there. His Baseball Hall of Fame, his Basketball Hall of Fame, which, oh, by the way, the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame, guys, if you don't know it, is breaking ground for a building, which they haven't had a building. It's going to be in Johnstown / Gloversville. I guess it's Gloversville. It's going to be on Harrison Street, right where the old Little League Park is there. Hart was there so I was actually right about something. Check that out. So anyway, I got to get to these inductions. I had Rennie. I had Rennie on my show actually in October, and it got great reception, and he does a great job with this. And the Basketball Hall of Fame, they have their spot in the TU Center or whatever we're calling it these days. So check it out. What else we got here? I think teams are going to be looking to the Guardians / Indians at all-star infielder Jose Ramirez. I think the Indians, I'm going to do this just like I did the Redskins. Sorry. I think the Indians, the team formerly known as the Indians, are going to look to move Ramirez to kind of start the rebuilding process. This club probably isn't going anywhere as it's currently constructed, and I think that you will see a lot of teams looking at Ramirez, who's a very underrated player, and you may see the Red Sox go after him big time as well. The other thing that I wanted to talk about before I move on from this topic is Nick Castellanos is going to find his next home. It's probably not going to be with the Reds. He had a career year this year, really good bat, but it's finding a home for his glove, and with the universal DH most likely coming in, and so the NL will have the DH. He'll have an easier time finding a job and getting paid. He's a JD Martinez type of player, really good bat, iffy glove, and he really had a great year this year. But I think you'll see him get scooped up really quickly as well. So that's a few things that I've got on my mind as far as what will happen when this strike ends. All right, what else we got here? Hart, yeah, I got that one. Are they already building? Yeah, I knew they had bought. I knew they bought the property. I think last fall it was announced, and it's interesting that they're already building. So I got to get up there and check it out because he's already got a bunch of memorabilia. I know, Kenny. So, and by the way, it's a great mixture. The New York State Baseball Hall of Fame and the Basketball Hall of Fame, and he's starting a Hockey Hall of Fame, isn't just for professional athletes. There's a lot of local athletes that have been inducted and coaches, and we got to start we'll have to start we got to start a petition to get Roger Gifford in, right? Craig Phillips is in the New York State Hall of Fame, for instance, Baseball Hall of Fame. who's just retiring this year, by the way, after a 46-year career. So congratulations to Craig Phillips, a really, really good baseball coach and builder of young men. I don't think there's anybody. Maybe somebody will find a way. One of our local guys could say something bad about Craig Phillips, but he's an interesting character, I have to tell you. He actually went on a couple of New England Patriot games with us when we had our season tickets in the 80s, and he was good buddies with a good friend of mine. And he's an interesting character, man. But he's a great coach and role model for the kids that he brought up. So there you go. Roger Gifford and Dick Roberti. We can start I don't know that he has a football Hall of Fame, though. So there is a Section 2 Hall of Fame, though, as you know, Kenny, which neither one of them are in either. And that's a totally different organization. But maybe we should start there and getting that grassroots thing going. What else? Listen, before I wrap it up and move on to some NFL stuff, and I'll back up here if we have to. On a baseball note, and then I'm going to go into a couple of farewells to some players from sports that passed away this year. Since I'm on baseball, rest in peace to Julio Cruz, who was a really good infielder with the Seattle Mariners and the Chicago White Sox in the 70s and 80s. Really good defensive player. Not much of a bat, but he did have some pretty good speed. So we say rest in peace to him. And as we move into football, I'd also like to say a rest in peace to a really, really big-hearted Lionel James, a little guy with the Chargers. Played at Auburn in college. Was a really, really good multi-purpose back with the Chargers in the 80s. Only 59 years old. He passed away. And Ken Burrow, overlooked. The game's played so much differently today, and the numbers of the wide receivers are so inflated because of the way the game's played. Guys like Ken Burrow, the last man to wear 00 in the NFL when he played with the Oilers. And there was another Ken Burrow, I think, that played with the Falcons, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm talking about the Oilers' Ken Burrow. Really, really outstanding wide receiver. And I think he still holds a bunch of Oiler. Well, I guess he will always hold them, because I don't know whether the Oilers and the Titans have carried over their or combined their. I think they have. I think they've combined their career stats. But Ken Burrow was a really great player in his time, and our condolences go to all three of those: Julio Cruz, Lionel James, Ken Burrow. Our thoughts and prayers go to your families, and rest in peace. And you guys are among many that gave me a lot of great moments in my youth, and we're starting to lose a lot of them now, by the way. Kenny's talking about politicians. I'm assuming it's about Hall of Fame votes. I'm sure Section 2 is like that, right? And I see some of the inductees every year, and I go, well, why not, Roger and Dick Roberti, right? Rick Sherlock talks about we were lucky young men to have coaches like these, and Mike Mongan brings up as well. Where'd you have Coach Mongan, Rick? Colonials? He didn't coach the Colonials, did he? Where'd you have Mike? Roger Gifford was certainly inspirational for me. And did a lot to instill confidence in a kid. I was very shy as a kid, man. And I didn't have a lot of confidence in my own ability. And he had more confidence in my ability than I did. And, and in a transition for myself in high school at a very, minor level, obviously, playing a position I never played before. He stuck with me through some very trying times, and it was a lot of fun playing for him and having a guy have confidence in me, and it turned out very, very well. Certainly didn't make a lot of money doing it or any money, but it was fun. I'm sorry, I missed this one a little bit. They coached the smallest school, 11-man football, and had 11 guys playing on both sides of the ball, right? And baseball teams running through the sectionals year after year. Agreed. Oh, that's right. I forgot Mike Mongan was at Perth. I'm sorry. You guys, thank you for that, Kenny. And I'm sure Rick is going to point out the same thing. I forgot that he was there before Coach Roberti took over the program. Now that you say it, I remember that, seeing that in some of the old yearbooks and conversations and whatnot. So another great role model, right? Football in 10th grade, big and clumsy, but made varsity. There you go. Well, now I'm bigger than I was then and clumsier now, I guess. So anyway, enough about Perth again. I'm excited. I hope that the people who watch this show don't really get, and I don't care if they do because it's my show. When we get off into these little Perth and local sports tangents, because they're important to me. And they're important to some of my most loyal followers. So we're going to go off on these little tangents now and again. So I hope you guys will forgive us. I might have missed Carlos's rest in peace to Julio Cruz. So anyway, I like to go off on those little tangents. I enjoy it. Let's take a quick look around the NFL. A couple things I wanted to chat about. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals have apparently kissed and made up. There were a lot of chatter the last couple of weeks that they were at odds, partly because of the Cardinals' concern about Murray's maturity and maybe his ability to lead a team to a Super Bowl or even deep into the playoffs. Kyler Murray, who's not the only guy to do this week, took the team off his social media feed. But they seem to have kissed and made up. Now, this is probably important or not important. I don't know. I mean, the Cardinals have got a really good football team, but to me, it feels like they don't have what it really takes to get over the top. And I'm not sure, and I said this about Matthew Stafford, and I've said it about Derek Carr, and I've said it about a few other guys, and Matthew Stafford now has proved me wrong. I'm not sure Kyler Murray's got what it takes to be able to step up when the chips are down and play flawless, basically, football and lead teams to championships the way Joe Montana did. Pretty much flawlessly, by the way. The way Tom Brady did in the playoffs. The way Tom Brady would step up in the playoffs. The way Terry Bradshaw would step up in the playoffs. Not as cleanly as Montana. Roger Staubach. Some great players. So I'm not so sure that this team is really going to make that big a... I don't know if this team is ever going to make that big an impact. And I'm not a big Kingsbury fan either. He's a former Patriot, but I have my doubts about Kingsbury. I really do. There's some... I don't know. What do we got here? Yeah, good point. Amsterdam still owns a record for consecutive wins by high school teams at 67. I think that number might be higher, Kenny. I'm not sure what it is right now. Good point. Good point. Gary Tuck played at Amsterdam, was a long time bullpen coach and bullpen catcher and different roles for the Yankees. Now we get to Murray. Murray's still young. I get it. He's still young. He's immature, but number one, he's been hurt a lot. He's small. So is Russell Wilson. I understand that. But I don't see the type of player in Murray that I see in Wilson as far as being, again, Carlos, I'm going to bring this up again, being a leader. Playing quarterback isn't all about numbers. It's about being the leader of your team. It's about stepping in a huddle, and every single guy there is hanging on your every word, and he knows that when you got the ball with 1:20 left, you got a chance to go down that field and win the game. You're not going to do it every time, but they all believe that's going to happen. I'm not so sure that Kyler Murray commands that type of respect. And again, he's a young guy. I get it. I know. Yep. Gary Tuck. Murray will bloom later in his career. Maybe. And again, sometimes look at it. He's a fine player right now. I'm not saying Kyler Murray isn't a good football player. He is. Does he need game maturity? Absolutely. And maybe he needs better coaching to gain that maturity. Maybe this is not a. Why are my glasses crooked? Here we go again, Mr. ADD. How do my glasses look crooked? Oh, driving me nuts. Yeah, maybe it takes some coaching too. Kyler Murray doesn't have to be a leader. Carlos, I don't get it, man. We're going to have a topic on a Friday just about this topic. How can you say Kyler Murray doesn't have to be a leader? Even bad quarterbacks, guys who have not had Hall of Fame careers, I shouldn't say bad quarterbacks because they played in Super Bowls, were still leaders of their team. Doug Williams led the Washington Redskins to a Super Bowl, was not a Hall of Fame player. But he was the leader of that offense. And that team had confidence in him. You can't have confidence in a guy who isn't a leader. Oh, my God. How can you this is, No. You need to be a leader to win in the NFL as a quarterback. Win consistently and be in contention for Super Bowls year after year after year. Can you get away with a Trent Dilfer? And even him, I would say, was a leader on that offense. They had confidence in him. If you can't, again, consistent quarterback, and you have to be able to step up with a game on the line, and all other 10 guys in that huddle think you can take them to the promised land right then and there. God, it is about leadership. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a little worked up today. We're going to disagree on this forever, Carlos. Joe Namath, the most overrated player in the history of football, but one of the most important players in the history of football because he won the most important game in the history of football, was a leader. Not a great quarterback, though, sorry, but he was a leader. Was he a consistent quarterback? Nope. No, you're wrong. I'm just going to say you're wrong. Like I said, well, I'm not going to say. I don't know if it's all now. It's an opinion, Carlos. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine. And I'm going to tell you, as long as the day is long, you have to be a leader quarterback. If you don't have a leader quarterback, then you do not have a quarterback. You just don't. Let me go back to Rick. One last take on our coaches. The life lessons we learned from those men are men and the men we are today, and have kept. You know what? I totally agree with this, Rick. I totally agree with this. And the fact that we were a small school was, I wouldn't change that for anything. I wouldn't change it to play at a big school ever, or go to a big school. I enjoy the fact that, I've had relationships through the years with not just my classmates, but people, 2 and 3, 4 years ahead of me and 2, 3, 4 years behind me. That doesn't happen in these bigger schools. So anyway, good stuff. What's Carlos? Rick's moving back to the dark side. And yeah. I mean, again, I don't want to belabor this point today, but you know what? We're going to have to take this up like an entire Friday show. Rick, you let me know when you'll be off, and we may dedicate an entire Friday show to this topic, because I don't understand how we cannot think your quarterback it's almost in a definition of the position that he's a leader of the team. Are you 6 years older than me? Holy crap. Then I stopped a year short, Kenny. You old bastard. Back to leadership. You can have leadership qualities and not be a leader. Carlos, you left me speechless. I don't even know how to react to that. If you have leadership qualities, then you very well will lead if you're given the opportunity to. Look at managers and coaches can be leaders. I do not disagree. But the guy out there, the field general, by the way, an axiom that's probably not used that much anymore because I'm old, is still important. Oh, boy. All right. Let me regroup here. A couple other notes. I don't think the Aaron Rodgers news is done, by the way. Hold on. I guess we're going to continue here. Let's go another route. Most baseball teams have a leader, and he sits behind the plate. I agree with that entirely as well. Although I will say the shortstop possibly on some teams can fill a similar role, Kenny. But you're right. That guy is going to handle pretty much every pitch of every game, right? And, I don't disagree. He's got to be very, very, very good. Russell versus Aaron. Oh, Russell Wilson versus Aaron? As far as leadership goes, Aaron Wilson. Yeah, I'll combine the two, then I got it. Russell Wilson's a better leader of men than Aaron Rodgers in my mind. Russell Wilson. I know you're going to disagree with me, but in my mind, it's Russell Wilson. Listen, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, you can continue this debate too while I talk about this. And this is going to come up pretty soon, probably, and be a bigger story. I mean, the reports were this week that when Aaron Rodgers came back to camp last year, that there was an unwritten agreement that the Packers would trade him in the offseason. That's why he reported. And the GM for the his name's escaping me at the moment. Let me see if I can find it. And we're going to have to wrap up here soon because I cannot go over. Because if I go 2 minutes and 1 second, well, I'm not able to put this on Roku later. So I got to have this. Who's the GM there? General manager Brian. Why can't these guys have names like Smith? Kunst. I'm sure I butchered that terribly. He said this never happened. He was never given a guarantee of any kind that he would be traded in the offseason. So I think there's more Aaron Rodgers drama to come here before we hit the draft. The Packers obviously have to do something. And I'm sure we got some debate here to talk about, which will probably wrap up the show once I get into it. Who's the better leader? Same amount of Super Bowl wins? Yes. But, I'm not going to say that's the only criteria, right? I mean, there's leaders that have won Super Bowls, or not won Super Bowls, I suppose. If you're going to make me pick one, though, I'm going to say Russell Wilson. Both have. Well, look at number one. You don't have to be loved by your players to be respected. I think Russell Wilson is respected by his teammates that don't like him, and Rodgers is not. Another symbol of leadership. I think I'm a good leader in my job. I do not think all the people that work for me like me, nor do I care. I do believe they respect me. And when they don't, I'll likely lose my job. Hopefully not before I'm ready to leave it. Russell Wilson's a true leader, and Aaron Rodgers is a self-centered SOB. Now, this is coming from a guy who is a fan of his and probably watched more of Aaron Rodgers than any of us. And I agree wholeheartedly. Russell Wilson wants to maybe move on now. Well, Russell Wilson's been a good soldier for that team very quietly asked to do a lot of things, played hurt, done everything you need to do. And I do believe that those players get in that huddle, watched it in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, get in that huddle and think he's going to lead them down the field, which he did. And then the play calling let them down. Cost the Packers at least 3 Super Bowl appearances. I don't disagree with that. Listen, there's a big one of the bosses above me at work is a huge Green Bay fan. I asked him about Aaron Rodgers a couple of years ago, and he said Aaron Rodgers is not a good leader, and Aaron Rodgers is not a good not a good quarterback as far as again, leadership. There's another term I'm looking for. Doesn't have great character because Aaron Rodgers doesn't just take the play in front of him and take the best play available. He often is looking to make a great play for Aaron Rodgers to look like the hero. Another guy who watches Aaron Rodgers play every down. I don't. Anyway. I would say Tarkenton was a great leader. Didn't win a Super Bowl. Dan Marino, maybe to a lesser extent. Fran Tarkenton, I'm going to buy into 100% because again, that goes to a great point. He was not universally loved on his teams, any of them, but I guarantee you that he was respected in that huddle. And I guarantee you Aaron Rodgers is not. All right. Again, he's best quarterback. It does not mean best. You want to look at numbers? You can make numbers say whatever you want. And again, it's an eternal debate. Who's the best quarterback? Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. Is he better or worse than Aaron Rodgers? I'm not sure. Games played totally different now, so I don't care about the numbers. There's no way Aaron Rodgers is better than Roger Staubach. There's no way he's better than Terry Bradshaw. There's no way he's better than Joe Montana. There's no way he's better than Tom Brady. So he's not even in the top 5, and he may not even be in the top 10, in my mind, in history. And you can laugh all you want, Carlos. I watched all those guys play, and the game is so much different today. It not only in the yardage, look at the completion percentages, and I know when we have this conversation, you're going to throw out that these guys complete high 60s, 70% of their passes, and back in the 70s they completed 50 or 55% of their passes. Game played totally differently. I didn't say it did equal championships, Carlos. I didn't say that specifically. It will lead to championships if you have the right people to lead. Leadership means nothing if you don't have the right people to lead. I agree with that point. Got to get ready to wrap it up here. I don't know. Carlos, you are entitled to your opinion. We'll talk. We'll carry this on further. I can't. We got to wrap it up now because I'm going to go over, and if I go over, I can't share the show. Let me see where we are for we got a minute. All right, guys. It's been awesome. It's been an awesome hour, 2 hours. Felt like an hour. Carlos, you keep bringing it, buddy, and I'll keep disputing it. I got no problem with that. Thanks to Rick and Alan and Kenny, Billy. Whoever else is here, I apologize if I missed you. We'll talk to you guys on Wednesday with the Sports Huddle. Got a lot to talk about that night, too. Get closer and closer to March Madness. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk. I'll catch you guys on the other side. You guys keep debating. I got to get out of here. See you later. Right here on Northeast Streaming Sports. Have a great Sunday.